he worked hard to become a skilled magician. His magic tricks caught the attention of a girl named Sophia. The seed of love began to sprout. However, she belonged to the royal family, and interacting with commoners was not allowed for her. The two could only secretly meet in the woods to enjoy brief moments of happiness. One evening, when they planned to escape together, they were unfortunately discovered by Sophia's family. Sophia was forcibly taken away, and Edward was warned that if such an incident occurred again, his entire family would be killed. Fearing for the safety of his family, Edward realized that the only way to end this relationship was to leave that place. 15 years later, Edward became a famous magician. His performances were so enchanting that even the prince came to watch. Before the show began, Edward invited a guest onto the stage. The prince wanted his fiancée Sophia to participate in the performance. As Edward looked at her, he recognized Sophia, but she did not recognize him. Undeterred, Edward continued the performance. Sophia was dressed in a red cape and led to a mirror. Edward instructed her to follow his commands. First, she greeted, then spun around, all seemingly normal. Suddenly, the reflection in the mirror ceased to move like her. Another person appeared behind her reflection, wielding a sword. Sophia quickly turned to look, but there was no one there. The person in the mirror raised the sword, killing her reflection. The audience below screamed in fear. Edward raised his hand, and a puff of smoke emerged from the mirror. Impressed by the performance, the prince personally approached Edward and invited him to perform at the royal palace. Edward graciously agreed, and before leaving, he uttered a sentence that made Sophia recognize him. The next day, she secretly climbed onto Edward's wagon, and the two still shared a deep love. But now, when facing each other, they both acted reserved. This encounter reached the hands of Inspector Oul, who was in the service of the prince. He immediately sought out Edward to warn him not to approach Sophia again. The performance day at the palace quickly arrived. The prince stepped onto the stage and introduced the famous magician he had invited. Edward stood before a blank sheet of paper and began to draw without using a brush. Slowly, a painting appeared on the white sheet, depicting the king's portrait. The audience below immediately cheered and congratulated, but the prince remained suspicious. He immediately went on stage, requesting a full-body search of Edward. Seeing this, the audience said that he should not cause any trouble and let Edward continue the performance. This made the prince somewhat hesitant. To save face, he told Edward to perform magic without any props. Edward agreed with no signs of concern. He then borrowed the prince's precious sword, stood it upright on the floor, and released his grip. The sword remained still.